With the opportunity to address some of these issues, I gave out a fact sheet. My name is Ken Simmons. I'm soon to be the Chief Operating Officer for HACLA this afternoon. I gave out a fact sheet. I just wanted to touch on a couple of the points that I think are important to clear up. One of them is, and this is particularly for our own clients, no direct payments that we receive from the federal government for any of our programs was used in the questionable expenses that have been brought forward by the media. That means there was no Section 8 money used, there was no public housing money used, we did not use any of our capital fund, all the restricted funds from HUD, nor did we use any of the rents from the tenants. Misinformation occurs because people see the media reports and news stories arise. All the expenses that have been brought forward were paid out of what is non-federal funds. I'm not trying to have a contest of what non-federal funds. I'm using the definition from HUD. HUD does not consider these federal funds because they come from nonprofits that we have. Some of the nonprofits, we own housing where we are the landlord. We charge market rents. The excess earnings off of that activity, as well as another contract through a nonprofit where we manage contract administration as well as compliance for HUD. Together, these revenues that come from our nonprofits are given to the Housing Authority to complete its mission. Of the expenses in question, that probably represents a little under 3% of those revenues. The other 97% goes directly to Housing Authority programs. Some of the things that those nonprofits pay for, which we could not accomplish otherwise with the limited funding we get from the federal government, are things like our summer youth employment programs, Summer Night Lights contribution, all of our pre-development activities for Jordan Downs, our current cooperative agreement with the LA Police Department to provide community safety at 4 sites, and a number of other activities. I am happy to note that my short term as interim CEO, if you listen to the KCT report, I want you to understand that this report has looked at expenses as far back as 2004. I think the current story is from 2006 forward. I'm happy to know even KCT recognized that as I became interim CEO of the Housing Authority, those expenses have dropped. I've tried to do many reforms that I thought were prudent. I understand this is public money, and I do not agree with the way we have used those resources. I also want you to note that although I recognize it as public funds, the rules and regulations at HACLA are extremely loose. One of the expenditures, one of the expenditures, for example, that KCT brought forward was limousines. Well, limousines actually are in our current travel policy an allowable expense. We are well behind in trying to remedy this. For those expenses I considered that they were a violation of the use of public funds, and there's a difference between a misuse of public funds in terms of being wasteful, that it could have gone for another purpose, and a more legal definition of a misuse of public funds where you cannot demonstrate any public purpose. For those expenses where I did believe that it violated the use of public funds, I've reported those to the City Attorney's Office, the HUD Office of Inspector General, as well as the District Attorney's Office, and I've been working with all 3 agencies for the last 9 months. Lastly, I just want to say I remain completely committed to eliminating wasteful spending. I support any additional reforms to manage reduced spending. I welcome the Council and the Controller's ideas on how to accomplish that. I also think it is great for the organization that a gentleman like Mr. Guthrie will be appointed as interim CEO. I have a great deal of respect for Mr. Guthrie, and I think a fresh face to push forward reforms will be a true asset to the agency.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons.